So there's a box of tissues making its rounds if you need any. There's also a box up here. Up next, please help me welcome my sister, Taz.
I'm one of those people that can get in public and be okay. But I sincerely watched Hulu and cried all day at work. And I left the closed sign on the door. And I am real non-functional about this one. Because I'm 37 years old. Jeff will call me a baby. I think I'm getting old. But Jeff was becoming like one of my best friends, like one of my, you know, your person you talk to every day kind of friends. He was on that list. Jeff reminds me a lot of my mother. My mother's gone. For him to not know her just reminded me so much of her. So I think I was drawn to him like that. Then I was a Jeff groupie as well. So my Jeff groupie story is the Mike Fiend at the Chrysler. And he got up there and he was like, God is a museum. First of all, he came through there with the long hair, with the hat, with the all black, and he stepped through the Chrysler. Okay, you know, and I'm just like, who the white boy? This girl that used to be on the scene at the time, Simba Castano, was out here, and she was a spitter. And she spit, she shut it down. And then, you know, it's Jeff's turn, and at the time, not too many of us newbies knew him. And he got up there, and you know, Jeff very much so left you speechless with the pen, in a way that if you are a poet that just wants to be a poet, you don't want to be a spoken word artist per se, you don't want to be a big ass performer, you just write and you say these things and you want somebody to help you make sense of the things you say. Because you couldn't send Jeff no bullshit. So in order to get him to read your poem, you had to learn the form that you were trying to send it in. You had to learn the punctuation so he said, well, I don't know when to breathe because I don't see the comma.
I'll tell you that about you a lot.
To some extent, I feel like from 2013 to right now, Jeff was real live teaching me how to do this. He came to almost all my features. He would leave a feature to come to my feature. He supported us. I had the wolf pack, right? You know, it was like 14 of the ragamuffins. And we were big and we were loud and we would go to everybody's open mic and be rowdy as shit.
Yep.
Sign the list up all together, so now you gotta watch all 14 of them everywhere. Always somebody in our group is the drunk ones. Always somebody in our group is the one starting something. And Jeff loved the shit out of us. He came to all of our shows. He's supportive of Jeff, the first white man, was like free 7. 7 kept getting money. Like oh my God, he was a rider. He was such a real person. So I just saw Jeff on Saturday. He told me come to Bob's reading. And I came to Bob's reading, I sat down on the floor, I was eating Popeyes, trying to slow chew the french fry, and I texted him a picture of me in the reading. And he came and sat on the floor next to Oliver. Oliver shook her head like this dude, 'cause he's on on the floor with me. She was holding his hand. And I said, he is the GOAT. Like, you're being a parent and ratchet at the same time. Very, very awesome. So this poem I'm about to read is something I was getting ready to send him, but it wasn't in form yet. That's what I gotta say about that. I think this is really dumb. I'm mad. I'm mad. I probably tried to post a couple of different statuses today, and none of them could really do this for me. The night Toni Morrison died, Janis Joplin asked her for a dance. They talked about Vietnam all night, reminisced on Woodstock and the bluest eye, Nelson Mandela and John Lennon. You know just what it was like when their souls hit the air. And Jan whispered about how she had touched a black man who had ducked the war, and Toni whispered about how she loved men who could never be a representation of her people. You know, the things we women talk about over playing cards and sipping tea behind closed doors and kitchen sinks, yo, that's just that on that. When revolution could be questioned because we believed everything we had been taught was a lie, or at least not science, when everything was God, and we could challenge that because we ain't seen them. Too many of us don't know our daddies, too many of us don't claim our feelings, so God became needles, or basketballs, or pens, and the only way you see heaven is if you kill yourself almost practicing for Coachella, or if you almost freeze standing in 30 degrees. So Beyonce, my weed man, and poets, we angels in heaven. I imagine the black people mingle and talk shit like Malcolm X sitting with the Kennedys over an Irish breakfast and a Muslim fast. Facing Warhol for a painting while he snickers that that fruit cup better not paint him as a soup can. That squat chuckles he would never, plus it make his mama mad. Respect got layers. The truth is the truth. The universe blesses us with examples. We tend to call them legends or ancestors. We tend to call them monsters or lost. We tend to call them genius with demons. We tend to call them everything but what their mamas called them. Like if I have prolific tatted on my face, you gun me down like I ain't human. Am I too prolific to be human? Will they shoot me off my podium? Will I die unrecognized? I'm not ashamed to say their names. Will they lift mine? I want to be worthy of sitting between Eartha Kitt and a Feeny in heaven. Ask them what bravery be about. I want to know why Marvin wasn't on Ooh Child, but at least once a week I play inner city blues and wait for the beat to drop, because that's when everything gets a little bit easier. Forgiveness is a virtue. Feel like I've been living in my church shoes, a muse for failure in God. I fear failure in God. I fear not being forgiven by those I love and being ripped of my vocal cords or the ability of my fingers to move. The night Toni died, Janis asked her for a dance. Janis told her not to cry, to just wipe her eyes and dance furiously, because dying doesn't have to be hard, even if it is. And Alice is holding up her walker under a purple sky, waiting for them to drop blood on the dance floor of an awkward wonderland. And so they danced, and they danced, and by the end of the song, they were both screaming in paradigm, creation on its last breath. I think I heard it.
Up next, we have Maddie Johnson.
Hi. So I'm really shaky because I've never really talked in front of this many people before, so forgive me for that. I'm not going to pretend that I was extremely close to Jeff, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that he didn't have a very big impact on my life. He supported me through everything I did, as well as my friends. I wish that I could have known him more than I did, but that man gave so much to everyone, and I don't think that I will ever truly meet anyone like that ever again, so even as little as I did know him, I am thankful that I did. He showed me support through things as small as me getting a good grade in school, or me having a cool Halloween costume that he liked, or even things like this night where it seemed like everything was spiraling out of control. And I could only reflect on everything negative happening in my life. And I was basically in a panic, sobbing outside in the cold at midnight. No one else was really there talking to me. But Jeff told me something that I feel like should apply to every part of my life, and I hope that it can help someone else here too. He told me, remember to breathe and try to make something good out of it anyways.
Yes.
And I wish I could have told him how much that helped me in so many different parts of my life, because I always had a bad habit of only focusing on the negative parts of things and just so much pity out of everything unless things were going perfectly. Until then. It would be like something bad was happening and I would just remember that, and it improved my life in so many ways that I am forever so grateful for. And with that, I am so grateful for everything Jeff gave all of us. And his impact on everyone's life will never go unnoticed.
Up next, let's put our hands together, please, for Jenna.
So, I didn't know if I was going to get up here. But then all of these people that I love got up here, and it felt like a dick thing to do to not get up here with them. And also, Andrea said to me last night, you know that Jeff would be up there for any of us, even if he had to break down the stage to do it. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I want to tell you a story, or if I want to read something that I wrote, or if I want to read something that Jeff wrote, or if I want to sing you a song. I don't actually know. But we'll just start and see what happens. I met Jeff about 15, 16 years ago at this dingy coffee house that you kind of had to be there for. And at the time, I was like any 16, 17, 18-year-old. I felt like I just walked into the 1960s in this clove-smoke-soaked, dingy place full of vampires, werewolves, and poets. We liked the latter better than the former, let's be for real.
Yes. Yes.
I wasn't part of the poetry scene. I sat and I listened and I dated poets, and I think that we should get an honorable mention.
We love you. Yes.
But that didn't mean that I didn't write, but what it did mean is that as a person that young, and with Jeff being Jeff, that the very last thing that I was ever going to do was read anything in front of him. And maybe even a lot of you in this room. But it wasn't poetry that kept me in Jeff's life all this time. He was the last person that I talked to on Wednesday night before I went to sleep. And of all of the completely mundane conversations, the last thing that I said to him was correcting him on the Cold War. I was like, look, Jeff, I really think you need to re-examine this propaganda that you've been taught. It will haunt me forever that he went to his grave being wrong. So what kept me and Jeff together is that we both were the kind of people who cared a lot about seeing problems in the world and trying to change them. And that's something that he was really low-key about, but not really if you knew him. His photography was all over the internet, his music, his poetry, all of which very well known, but the things that he did in his community to support community organizing, to support people in this community with nothing, were not things that he would have posted on Facebook, because that wasn't the kind of person that he was. But I can tell you that that's really where our friendship grew, and I went from being this bratty kid that he probably didn't think much of to actually being a genuine friend. And it's been a long time, and I'm glad that I had that experience. And I'm looking out here now and I'm seeing people that came into town. I'm seeing people I haven't seen since that dingy coffee house closed. And like Josh said before, that makes it feel like Jeff should be here, but he's not. But I did write something recently, and as I got older and felt like, you know, maybe we're both adults now, we have a friendship, maybe you can read my things. I let that happen a little bit more, and this is one of the last pieces that I posted recently, and Jeff dropped me a love react, which meant a lot to 17-year-old me. And it's kind of centered on Well, the fact that the world is ending. And let's be for real about that. Jeff wanted to do something about it, and I know that most of all, he wanted to do something about that for his children, and so that was something that we bonded on, and so here we go. Recently, Iceland mourned the passing of a glacier and commemorated the occasion with a plaque. It bears this ominous inscription: "This monument is to acknowledge that we know what is happening and what needs to be done. Only you know if we did it." I'm trying to find joy in the midst of near constant tragedy. I'm trying to find life, hope, trying to find a reason to... I'm trying to convince my brain to tell my heart that we still have a shot at this. I am overwhelmed by the weight of the impossible juxtaposed against the urgency of the necessary, and all of that world-ending shit aside, what sticks in my head most nights is that I could lose the very connections that make me human. We live on a shard of glass, you know, nothing but a speck of clarity and chaos. There's this girl I know who had to live to die without a safety net, had to die to live. This girl I know I used to be. This girl I know who had to die to understand that history is a crushing weight on my chest. I'll come when I can in the scarcity of memory, a ghost that everywhere leaves, the smell of black powder and sea salt, a Roqueen gray lady minding time and tide, because the thing that makes us human is each other. The collective historical process of the law of synergy, and honestly, my pernicious grasp on language is all I have, and it, like so many other things, is failing. I read once that the definitive human characteristic is time binding, our ability to transmit experience through centuries, to have and share knowledge of knowledge. You see, an elephant can't say to another elephant, "Hey, 100 years ago there was this elephant who had the exact same problem you're having, and here's how he solved it." We can contain more than a single lifetime, and in that sense we are forever. In that sense we are not alone. In that sense we are powerful. Please don't forget, I love you.
Let's hear it again for Jenna, everyone. It's funny to hear how many people say that they were afraid to let Jeff hear their work or see their work. Like, I was terrified to let him. You had to have thick skin. Because Jeff was going to be brutally honest with you about your poem. I remember the first few I sent him. The feedback I got was less than flattering, but it was honest, and it made me a better writer. And then as our friendship grew, it would get to the point where he would send me the horrible poems that other people would ask him to critique. Say, if I had to read it, so do you. He never told me whose poems they were. Never told me whose they were. But yeah, there were some abominations in there. And then I eventually got to the point where, for whatever reason, people wanted me to critique their poems, and I was like, okay, I come from the Jeff Hewitt School of Critique, so that's about to be a problem for you. It's my turn with the red pen. Ah, Jeff. All right. Up next, please help me welcome to the stage Richard Justice.
Good evening, everyone. If anyone deserves to rest easy, it is Jeff. He's been struggling for a while, it seems, fighting a lot of fights. I met Jeff, we were both conscripted to be brainstormers on some project years ago, and we found out that we had to unfriend each other, or unblock each other on Facebook. And interaction at that point had just been social media, and we just squawked at each other. Jeff seemed to have an issue with, we had a styles clash. He seemed to think I was being sarcastic when I was just being confrontational. We just kind of from there. That being said, I've had a lot of time to work with Jeff. He was my editor for a couple of publications, and so I got plenty of those reviews back, lots of red ink. He still published them though, so kudos. But one thing I really admired about Jeff, and something I would really like to emulate kind of going forward, is he never balanced everything he was working on. It was impossible. He couldn't sacrifice things. So instead, he developed a dynamic operating system for his life. He mapped every behavior to one of his core values. That's why he seemed to have tireless energy. I think we're all here because of that, and that's something I think we need to embrace and push forward. Thank you.
One more time for Richard Justice. Up next, I want to welcome Dave Rudabaugh.
Hey,
Oh, man.
Not to say that some of you guys, when you were trying to be funny, weren't funny, but as far as I know, I'm the only stand-up comic here. You know, I wore the T-shirt, so it's like, might as well. And also it's weird because Jeff never really thought I was that funny. I mean, he thought I was funny, but when I tried to be funny, he didn't think it was that funny. And I think my last conversation with him was actually through like Messenger, but I remember our last face-to-face conversation was a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure some of you that already know me aren't surprised, and some of you guys looking at me and hear the slur in my voice also aren't surprised. We were talking about going to jail. It was a long time ago that Jeff was in jail. But we were talking about weekend jail. And I forgot the details. Also, I probably should have started. I also don't remember meeting Jeff. Like, I mean, I know I've known him for like
A long time.
no, long time. I mean, I'm getting older. I'm about to turn like 39, so I gotta keep it. It's probably 9 years. I think it's 9 years. I can't even remember meeting him. No, but we were talking about going to jail in Virginia Beach for the weekend, you know, because we're both white. And he got work release. They won't even let me work release when I go in there. Just like they look up my poop chute and let me take a nap for 3 days. But he said some sheriff like talked smack to him, and then apparently Jeff smacked him back, or that's what I remember him saying that in the last conversation. I know, yeah. If this statement already wasn't about white privilege, it just really covered it there. No, I was gonna say something else. Hang on. Oh yeah. Jeff is a local mythical figure. Before yesterday, and I don't know whether he thought it 2 days ago, but a couple years ago, he said to me something along the lines of that I'm kind of a mythical figure. Like, really? I know, yeah, he was probably drunk and stuff, and I always appreciate that, because once we were talking about some of my personal problems that were other people's problems. And I was like, yeah, maybe I am just a piece of shit. He's like, you're not a piece of shit. You're just an asshole. All right. George, thanks for that beautiful introduction.
One more time for David. I don't remember what it was you posted, but he sent me a private message. It just said, "What's up with Rutabout?" And I was like, nobody knows, really. I want to say it was probably within the last 2.
Oh, okay.
It was semi-recently in comparison to the length of time you've known him. So he's probably wondering for a really long time before he asked me.
Probably has to do with local comedy. That's not my fault.
Oh, your comedy is definitely your fault.
No,
I'm just messing with
the other shit in local comedy.
you. One more time for Rutabout. Up next, this gentleman is also a brother to us. I don't think it was any secret to anyone how much Jeff loved him and how Jeff loved him. Please welcome to the stage, Godchild Young.
Yo,
Yes.
shit, what's up? Jeff is my big brother, my big brother. It's actually, I was there when the accident happened. It was right on the street. I was coming from the corner store, like right there, and always when I go to the corner store, I walk past the do-it-yourself store right there, and I walk in the parking lot. So I heard something, and then I'm like, Spark Place. All this random shit going on, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? And then as I'm walking, I get to the street, I get to 35th, and I look to my left, and I look, and I'm like, hold up, I know that bike. He's in all black. And I run to the corner, and I'm going to fuck off. Easy money, I'm going to fuck off. And I'm like, no, get the fuck away from him. I'm about to get in a fight with somebody. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing all that. And I'm not gonna get into too much detail because the only reason I slept last night because of whiskey. It's the only reason why I slept last night. It's the only reason. But a few things I can say about Jeff, and I'm not gonna do a poem and shit like that. I'm not. But he did say me to this. He did say this to me, and it's like a great ass quote. Talent is not a democracy. Fucked me up when I heard that. I was like, wow. But he loved what I did, and he gave me props on what I did. Because when I came into the scene, he was already 20 years ahead of me doing this thing. He was already doing it. He is. My big brother, I don't even know what to say, man. Like, I love him very much. I haven't cried for anybody since my father died 5 years ago. I love them very much. When I heard the sirens coming, I straight ran from 35th to 28th Street. He lives across the street from my mom's house. I ran straight to his house, trying to find anybody. And then people went home, I ran right back, 35th, got on the computer, you know what I mean, trying to find people that knew his you know, his daughter's number, whatever, and then like an hour later, they told me he was gone. All I could think about was them. All I could think about was them. He was a very, you know, fuck you type person. Unapologetic as a motherfucker. But very loving,
Oh, hell
as you
yeah.
can see.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah, that's it. I love my brother very much. I was just with him on Saturday, going up to the Poetry Society of Virginia meeting, and I don't know what the fuck to do now. He was changing everything. He was gonna change it. So, much love. Moms, pops in the house. His children. I love y'all. Leave me, I got you.
Our next performer's gonna, please help me welcome Susan.
All right, I'm not a performer, I'm not a poet, musician, or any of that, you know, artistic, great, wonderful things. But I did know Jeff for, what, like 22 years, as long as Angela has. And I didn't know Jeff the asshole because he didn't write poetry. But we did share our arguments about certain political matters that we were both very passionate about. But you guys knew him as the artist. I know Jeff as the father. He was one of the most dedicated, he was a dedicated father to two very beautiful children. He was my neighbor. He would look out for my children. I could hear him screaming across the balcony telling Nathan and Alex to stop climbing on that tree, they were gonna break something. And then I come walking out going, what the heck are my kids up to now? I had to bring in both my kids and tell them about their best friend's dad. And explaining that to a 9 and 6 years old is extremely hard, but I can't imagine Danny explaining that to her children, and I'm so sorry that you guys are going through that. And sorry is such an insignificant word, because there's really no words that we can put all our feelings into, because we're feeling a zillion of them at one time. But I want you to know that not only was he a staple, he wasn't a myth, he's a legend in this area. He loved Ghent with every bit of passion that he put through everything. There was never a middle ground, it was black and white. You know, he gave it all. And that included his children. And I know right now, he's probably whispering from above, telling us, all of us, to shut the hell up. Stop our crying, stop our sniffling.
Start drinking.
Maybe start drinking and write better poetry, better songs. You know.
You can do better, both.
Can always do better. Right, but my husband, Stephen, and Jeff got to know each other very well. And they had some pretty passionate conversations too. So, but it's not just Jeff the artist, the Jeff that's impacted all our lives. It's also Jeff the father, the family man. Because everybody was a part of his family.
Yep.
Everybody was a part of his family. He just dragged you right in. So, anyways, that's all I had to say.
So, one day Jeff sent me this message. He says, "You can stop bothering me about your batch of books. They'll be here tomorrow." Also, was that Xavier Rodriguez you were talking to yesterday? He knew your dad. Then he says, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, that's him." He said, "Fuck, I'm old." Please welcome to the stage, Xavier Rodriguez.
That's actually, you know, why I came up here. Him and my father. Some people here know my father, some don't. My father is Danny Rodriguez. So some people know him, some people don't. He was a similar pioneer in the area, kind of like Jeff, kind of like Godchild. Excuse me. He got a lot of stuff done with the community. So part of the reason why I'm here is I had to tell my father one of his closest friends passed, because my father got rid of social media. So he just had no idea. There's so many people from here he hasn't really stayed in contact with because he's an old fogey, and he'll tell you it like that. So I had to tell my father yesterday, like, I don't talk to him, I don't call him that often. I had to tell him, I was like, "Hey, Dad, you know, Jeff passed." And he's still in shock. Like, he still hasn't come out of that. So I decided, you know, I'd come up and just talk on behalf of my father a little bit on behalf of myself for the community. So way back when, the art community wasn't really much to speak of around here. Part of it was due to, like, strong military presence. People were always shifting in and out, so it was hard for anything to kind of stay stable. So in that lack of stability, you had Jeff. And he was just steady grinding, steady laying the groundwork, steady grinding. Cueing to my dad and his friends, you know, hear it from my dad's side. He was like, "Yo, back in the day, Jeff had like all the white people, and we had all the black people. So when we got started, we had to tell Jeff, 'Yo, hey, make room for black people.' And they didn't have no beef. Jeff is a very loving and open person, and he had established enough groundwork through the sheer blood, sweat of his own, you know, efforts, that there was an avenue to be opened up for the art community. And so, like, even though a lot of people will attribute a lot of different stuff to a lot of different people, it's true. Without Jeff's just pure constant drive and hard work, there wouldn't even have been anything to, like, establish the groundwork for. So, like, I have to give a lot of honor and respect to Jeff and that generation, and specifically Jeff, just because literally, like, a lot of things that we do now, a lot of the stuff that we do now, a lot of the stuff that gets down, literally could not be done without him. Like, if he hadn't been born, if he hadn't been...
They take offense to you referring to them as that generation. Just saying.
Excuse. He looked at me and said I'm old as fuck. I didn't tell him that. He looked at me and said that. So just to literally say, just shout out, like, literally nothing we would do here, like this building, what we do, without his tangible, physical, personal efforts would not exist. And in that, I just have to give him mad love and respect. As far as me personally, I've had one conversation with Jeff, and it was an argument. I'll tell y'all what it was about too. I was hot, so he lowballed my score in the slam because I had a notebook. So he did that. He was like, "Yo, I started 8 when I judged. I took off 4 points because of the notebook. Get at me."
Yep.
And we disagreed very vehemently. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know, no beef. You know, I just didn't agree. I was just like, I thought it was dope, and he was like, "Oh, you was dope, but there was a notebook." And you know, at the end of the day, you know, that's what it is. And so we never had no beef. And what I liked about that interaction was he definitely, like y'all said, purely uncompromising. Zero. He didn't care that I was, you know, the son of like one of his personal homies. He didn't care that, like, you know, like he's telling my man George, "Yo, oh my, gotta go way back with his dad." My homegirl was sitting next to him during that slam, and he's bragging to her like, "Oh my goodness, man, I feel so old. I knew his dad. This is like crazy." But none of that got to me. I was just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had no kind of softness, no nothing. He was like, "Bro, I don't think you right." And I was like, "Bro, I don't think you right." And he was just like, "Bet. That's where we at." And you know, for that, I loved him for that. You know, that was that's such a refreshing thing to have, especially in this world of words that we create. Somebody who stood by their words so frequently. And then I started watching his stuff, you know, like he did a lot of political stuff. He was just an activist in the literal sense of the word. You ain't never seen nobody out in the streets, in the literal streets like this, man, yo. He was the only person I knew that read Transmetropolitan, the comic book. Yep. He was like...
He was Spider.
Yeah, Spider Jerusalem, exactly, bro. When I first found out his picture was Spider Jerusalem, and he was just like, yeah, bro, I'll walk around in half body armor, it's okay. And that's Jeff, man, so I just gotta give mad love and respect, because without him and the stuff that he did, like literally, tangibly, physically, not just was in the room for, not just was his name on the sign or something, like the things he literally did in this community, in this world, in this physical location, you know, nothing I do would be able to happen. And so I kind of have to give him love for that. And then there's also people who I love personally, George, you know, India, Taz, a few people around, who I also find to be like my personal like people, and they're shook. And that's, you know, legacy, man. You know, when you ain't even got to be in the room, you ain't even got to know him personally, you ain't even got to like him, and you still got to respect the fact that, like, he was here, yo. So just, yeah.
One more time for Xavier Rodriguez. It's another thing I've never gotten to do. Please help me welcome to the stage, Jackie.
I didn't mean to close it out here, but I got nervous and I was like, I'm not going to say something, and I was like, why do I get to say something about Jeff with all these people here that have shared so much, but it's almost like, why do I have to say something? Because this is my chance to share maybe a couple things that like I got to see that other people didn't get to see. So I've been the subject of tons of photos, like on the other end of Jeff's camera lens as a musician, and I was talking to my friend Tyler Warnalis the other day, and he said it right, which was he made so many musicians' parents proud. He made us feel so special, and he's taken some of the best pictures of me that I've seen, my favorite, maybe they're not the most flattering, but they showed me as a musician in a way that made me feel like I was doing the damn thing, if you know what I mean. And I got, I do have a keyboard for this computer, but Jeff and I started some music together because I'm a recording engineer too, so I'm gonna try to find that, see if I can get that posted. I don't know if there were any vocals on there or anything, but there was some guitar stuff, and I actually got to talk to him on Wednesday a little bit, because I was like, hey man, you know, you got some real estate referrals for me? What's up, dude? And you know, I was like, what are you doing? How's your house? What's up? I saw your guitar got done finally. It's been like a year. And then he's like, yeah, I gotta get another amp. And then we talked about stupid amps for like too long. Watched some YouTube videos about the amp that he wanted to get. Things that we do, right? And I was like, are we ever gonna finish that song? He's like, nah, I gave up on that. I was like, oh, Jeff, you gave up on something. I didn't know that was a thing. My thoughts have, I think I'm very lucky because I did get to help him find the house that he bought last year, and I got to meet his mom and dad, and I got to meet Oliver and Alex and spend a little bit of time with them. And I've been thinking about you guys since I heard. That's what my mind keeps going back to. And I know that him finding and buying that house, I could see it was like all for you guys. And it makes me sad because I felt like some shit was coming together, you know, but it just reminds us that our shit's never ever together, right? But it's so cool that you guys got to spend a little bit of time there with him, and I'm so glad that I got to see that side of Jeff. I feel very blessed, and yeah, thank you, and yes, I'm gonna miss him.
Okay, so we thank you all for being here to celebrate our friend, our brother. We talked a lot about being afraid to send Jeff poems, right? he told me this was the best thing I ever wrote. And when I sent it to him, all he said back was, no notes. Good work. I know, right? I'll never write anything the same again. So we'll close with this. I do want to say, there are a lot of us in here that are strangers. We don't necessarily have to be. We're connected to each other by one of the strongest fibers I have ever encountered. He was an amazing man. So I just want to say, if anyone needs an ear of any kind, please by all means feel free to contact me. We'll cry together. I don't have to know you. Yeah. So, again, thank you, Jeff, for everything. Everything. And this is for you. So I think that deep down, most hammers would much rather be pillows, preferring to rest a head than to strike one. I have a rough time believing that sandpaper wouldn't prefer to be satin. You see, I think some of us act harder than we need to, simply because we haven't been presented with the options. Given a choice, I'd like to think that any barrier would much rather be a gate, swung wide open like arms that haven't seen you in years, saying, come on in. Welcome home. You made it. So here's to every wish that drowned because its penny couldn't swim. For every rainbow that's ever bent over backwards, reaching for the sun every time the sky cried, and for every shamrock that perished with its wishes still trapped within its four leaves, cut down prematurely by a lawnmower blade whose only wish was to be a sprinkler head instead. See, this is for being better than our nature. This is for going outside of our means of becoming more than what we were made for. This is for the understanding that sometimes a crowbar just needs to be a key, and sometimes a lock needs to just not exist anymore. Trust me, there are pebbles that dream of being boulders, and boulders that dream of being feathers. Somewhere, there's a puddle with ocean aspirations. And today, maybe today he's just a puddle. But tomorrow he'll be a pond. And the day after that, a brook. And then a stream. And then a river, and then a lake, and then finally that ocean that will one day become the raindrops on a 4-year-old's nose who's jumping into a puddle, pretending to be a giant, splashing in an ocean. Everything is cyclical. So here's to the nature of things, to the cycle of order, and to the knowledge that all things have a purpose beyond their purpose. Especially you.